enforcement, public safety. I'll wait for Mr. Root to be seated. You ain't got to run.
Run, Mr. Root.
Thank you, sir.
All right. First order of business is approve the minutes of the October 16th meeting.
Motion to approve.
I'm going to have to second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next is the presentation regarding continued efforts to improve the critical radio communication in emergency services. Charlie, you want to come up?
Thank you, gentlemen. I wanted to take an opportunity tonight to, number one, bring up to speed on where we stand with our radio communication system in the county. I know that's a project that we've been working on for several years, and as budget years end and we move into a next one, we've taken a little bit of money we've been able to save and through frugal efforts throughout the years and continue to build and improve on our radio system. Captain Tilson from the Sheriff's Office and his staff do a solid job every day in trying to keep the system up and make improvements to the future. But we're kind of at a point where, number one, we wanted to give an update on the system, and number two is talk about some spending that we need to do on the system and where we intend to get the money from. We know things are tight and a close eye on everything we do, but we've got to, certainly don't want to come to you with a need without proposing a solution, we hope. But as you're well aware, our county operates the red light crowd, fire and rescue squads, operate on an analog voting system, meaning the county has a transmitter on the top of Long Mountain that transmits a radio signal across the county, and then there's receiver sites or ears located in locations across the county. Over the past couple of years, we've expanded that system by adding more ears. We're able to hear the transmission that comes out of dispatch throughout the county, but our trouble is responders being able to talk back into the system on the scene, be able to key up a walkie-talkie, and dispatch be able to hear that transmission. That's kind of complicated in that the portable radio that we carry on our sides has become more prolific in its use by the number of medical calls that we're running. The medical calls don't require a fire truck. It's typically a smaller vehicle, a smaller number of team members respond to the call, and they operate outside the vehicle. Where a fire, somebody's going to stay with the fire truck, run the pumps, or that type of thing. A medical call, they're outside of their vehicles in a home. So the use of a portable radio has become more and more important to us as those medical calls grow. So again, over the last couple of years, as we go throughout our budget year, we try and cut back and be frugal and be responsible and use what money that we're able to have left over to make small improvements throughout the year to that radio system. Again, we've expanded the system. We've added the correct number of listening sites that we feel to encompass the county. But on the analog side, we feel like there's now system upgrades. We've added new sites, but some of the pre-existing sites, there are some equipment upgrades that needs to be made to bring that system kind of up to modern day standards. And then our intention is to have a third-party vendor bring on and take over the maintenance on that system. I'll let Captain Tilson talk about that in a minute. And at the same time that we're building out a system that is accessible and usable by all of our responders, it is the build out of a Moto Turbo digital system, a VHF digital system that carries signal in a new format that allows responders a little bit better coverage with simpler hardware, the use of internet as a backbone into it to build a redundant communication system to allow our responders to have both technologies in one radio or in hand that they're able to use. So again, there's two systems that we'll talk about. Number one is the existing analog voter system that's been in place in our county for a couple of decades that we've been upgrading and been expanding, and then the installation and our continuous work to transition to a digital system. So Captain Tilson, if you want to kind of explain the process on both of those projects, and then we'll kind of share our thoughts on where we go from here and making the final upgrades to that system.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. For those of y'all that might not know me, I'm Travis Tillson. I am your Emergency Communications Director for the Sheriff's Office and for all of our public safety agencies. To highlight, and I won't get technical unless you ask me to. I'm prepared to, but the overview of what we're going to likely propose to do is to finish the upgrade of the analog system. Like Chief King said, that's the 20-year-old radio system that we've been operating on since we've been here. The last couple of years, Chief King and I, with your help, have increased the number of voter sites from 6 to 10, and we feel like that is the correct number of voter sites to cover this county. Those voter sites are simply receivers or ears. They take the transmission from a responder in the field, they retransmit it back to the main transmitter on top of Long Mountain, where it repeats that signal back out to everyone. It's important because it's not likely that I would be able to get a transmission from here on a walkie-talkie all the way back to Long Mountain. So we put satellite receivers in the field, one of which the closest here would be at the law enforcement center now. Those turn those signals into one of three different methods. Either will go over Ethernet, over IP. We are using the Focus fiber for that in some places. We use microwave connectivity in some places, which means it's basically a radio shot connectivity between the two. And our oldest sites use something called RFCOR, which means that is basically dumping it into another radio, which another radio retransmits it on a different frequency back to the mountain, where another radio converts it back to the original frequency and then retransmits it. We have three different methods of getting that done at this point. In this project we're going to present to you aims to clear all of that up and standardize each of these sites across the system so that they're all the same. The benefit of that being easier maintenance, same parts, same principles, same operating methods, same monitoring methods in place, so that when something breaks, it's all standardized and we're able to go out and correct that no matter which site it is, to get them all operating at peak efficiency and then be able to demonstrate that in the statistics we'll be able to provide. In a nutshell, what we're doing is replacing equipment such as routers and switches and connectivity pieces and upgrading the radios at those voter sites so that they're all the same, they're all newer, and they're all working in the same protocols. Once that's done, we feel like at that point we would be able to say, as a department and as an agency, that the analog radio system for public safety is as good as it can get. And that is not the go-forward method, but it is still going to be required for the foreseeable future, both for interoperability with other counties and as a backup to whatever systems we decide to put in place in the future. So this is a two-part project. Number one will be funding the upgrade, and I'll let Chief King talk about the funding method, but we have a proposal in hand that does just that. It brings a vendor in, goes through the sites, standardizes them, upgrades the equipment that needs to be done, and puts them all in working order. And then going forward, we would pay this vendor an annual fee for maintenance. Basically, it's akin to having software as a solution. It is a managed service where the county would no longer be depending on Travis by himself to manage these 10 sites, but we will be paying a competent vendor to do that with money that is already budgeted. We will use the same money that I use to maintain them now just to pay someone else. So there will be no new budget money to manage that maintenance contract once we get the upgrade in place. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So you're using the voter sites as a simplified trunking to send it to Long Mountain, and then you use the crosstalk repeater off of Long Mountain to come back.
Yes, sir. That's essentially correct. It is.
And your voter sites, what do you use, a tone burst so one won't stack on top of the other one?
Right. They use a carrier tone that's on all the time, and once the transmission is detected, that tone drops, which indicates to the master controller to start listening and repeating the signal.
Okay, you gonna stay on VHF?
Yes, sir.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
That's good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I got something real quick while you're up there.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate all y'all do. And I know some of this makes your job extremely difficult. Luckily, we haven't had a big issue in the county, but I know it seems when there is, whether it's the snow that just kind of came through, I understood there was a lot of issues trying to figure out who was where at that point in time. Obviously, it's not necessarily a life or death situation, but for for what y'all are trying to do. What this system, I guess, would allow everybody to understand back and forth more than it seems like to me, you're able to talk or listen more than you are to talk back if you need something. That's the biggest issue?
Yes, sir, that's correct. So the problem we run into, just like you said, is the field units can almost always hear the dispatcher. The dispatcher cannot always clearly hear the responder in the field. And that's what we're aiming to improve with both of the projects, with upgrading the existing system we have now, keeping it in place and making sure it is absolutely the best it can be going forward. And we're working on the digital VHF project, which enhances that even further. But you're absolutely right. That is the goal, is to make the responder have a clearer path to communicate back to us.
So the person on the scene, if they're with a individual that needing assistance or whatever, they're pretty much on an island,
Yes, sir.
and this would eliminate that.
This would greatly reduce that. By going from 6 to 10, we've reduced it somewhat. By having them all standardized, we can go back now and say, from a life safety standpoint, that we have done everything we need to do to make sure that these 10 sites are working properly all day long, so that if a responder needs help, whether it's law enforcement, whether he needs medical help, that we have a better chance at that point of receiving that message, because we've put everything in place to make that happen.
So the other system you said would just stay as a backup system. Would there be maintenance on it because we're keeping it as a backup system?
Yes, sir, there would be. The analog voted system, which is our old, quote, old system that we're using now, that's where the maintenance money that's already budgeted would continue to be used on a maintenance contract with a vendor to keep that system in place. We feel like, and our responders agree, that, you know, there's so much invested in that system, and it does work in most places for most applications, that we need to keep that as a backup and as an interoperability solution for other responders that may come here from other counties. It's accessible by anyone with a VHF radio.
But your cost isn't changing for what I mean, the maintenance cost is,
No, sir.
do y'all have cost figures on everything that y'all are gonna share with us tonight?
If you'd like, yes. So the initial capital outlay to upgrade the analog system is $70,968. The annual maintenance is $19,248. The $19,248 is already budgeted in the communications budget. We use it now. We'll simply be changing the responsibility for who is responsible for maintaining it from Travis to a vendor. So tonight, we're wanting you to consider the $70,000 some odd dollars, and I think Chief King is going to tell you that he has a funding mechanism in mind for that. I don't want to talk about his money, but
Is there anything else, the $70,968, that you are gonna add a year from now or 2 years, or what's the step? Because I know with the analog system, we've added stuff. I just was trying to figure out what the step was on this one.
this is the end game for us for the analog system.
Okay.
This is it. All we will do from now on is replace parts when they go bad. We won't be adding anything else to it.
Great. Thank you, Mr. McCall.
So, again, just to add on to that, over the last couple of years, we started with 6 of those listening sites, and administration and finance has allowed me to move money, and I kind of lit a fire under them to rush out, or not rush out, but add up to those 10 listening sites. Well, adding those put a stress on the system. It's some parts are older, the communication system, so we've expanded the system as far as we can expand it. This 70,000 will take and essentially put consistent pieces throughout the system that communicate well, and again, give us the absolute most that we can get out of it under its condition. But again, in an effort to bring you a problem and present you a solution as well, the essentially 71,000 that he mentioned that's needed in equipment upgrades, our recommendation to you is the use of money that we've recently received back from the tropical storm Irma that came through September 11th of 2017. As you know, the red light crowd fire rescue squads from across the county spent a good portion of that day and September the 12th out cutting and clearing trees and clearing the road. Our county did put together a reimbursement package that went to FEMA. We've recently received the portion back to the fire service in the amount of $72,928. There's still some outliers for roads and bridges, sheriff's office, and another in emergency services that's in an audit process with FEMA. But essentially, the check that we have the check in hand, ready to be put into essentially a budget code, is what we would ask to be invested into the parts that are needed for the radio system. That money is to be dispersed to the fire stations. If not, that's money that was calculated from the fire department's time, chainsaws running, fire trucks running. It is essentially reimbursement for the expenses that were incurred. The fire chiefs, the volunteer fire chiefs, I want to make that clear, have met and discussed, and their recommendation is to use their money rather than it going back out to the stations for reimbursement for their fuel or chainsaws and time and effort, is they would like for that money to go towards reinvestment into our radio system. So again, our recommendation to you is allow us to use that FEMA reimbursement in the amount needed to do the upgrade to our analog voter system.
I'll make the motion to accept the proposal to use the money up to the $70,968. We need any contingency or anything on that?
No, we need to send it to council.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We would motion up to council.
Yeah, motion to send it to council, I'll second that.
Any discussion? John, you have anything?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank y'all for the support.
All right,
Well, hang on, Mr. Morrell. When I make that motion in the committee, do I need to state to send to council, or is it kind of understood that it's committee to council?
It would be good to state it.
Okay.
Y'all can have motions and do things, take action within this committee, so if you can state it, make it more clear, that'd be
Okay.
great. And as to the contingency item, it'll go to council, have its own AIS, and any additional funds will be spelled out there.
Okay.
all right, next up, the discussion regarding recycling program. Everybody's looking at you, Swain.
Good afternoon. I am Swain Steele, for those of you who are new to the council. As far as the recycling program, I'm here to answer any questions. Talk about recycling.
Well, what plans to expand our recycling program?
As of right now, we've been looking over the past couple of years as far as we're continuing our commercial cardboard route, as far as the glass route and a metal route. We've been talking with the industries. Last year, we met with several of the industries throughout the county. Some of them's come on board. We've added a few more just within the past 2 months. We're wanting to try to continue that, advertise to try to get as many customers as we can who are not actually utilizing recycling of some sort. Our whole goal was to go after any facility that was on the outliers that maybe Republic Services or Waste Management were not servicing. That's been our goal because a lot of that material was just going right into the waste stream. We have accomplished that, especially at some of the industry, but as far as some of the commercial entities, we have not got those as of yet. Some of the drawbacks on portion of expanding in those areas is manpower. We've gotten to a point now where our route is taking about 2 to 3 days a week, which was we were using that one driver who was making pulls from the recycle centers. He's actually going out. It started out as 1 day a week, all day. Now it's 1 day, almost 2 days all day. And now we've picked up a third day that we're picking up just a commercial portion of it. We've just about every store in the Hartwell Village, we're taking cardboard from those stores, from their management company. So we've got that portion. We've got some grants to expand our glass recycling. We've actually purchased the, like, roll carts that we could put out. This, it's got down to the portion now, if we send those out, who are going to send around to pick them up? That's going to be our next question. So we haven't expanded into that. We haven't advertised for glass recycling because we were going to discuss that hopefully during the budget portion this year about how, we don't want to overextend ourselves because then it makes us look bad if we can't get there on time to pick up their material. So we want to make sure we've got enough staff to be able to get there because this past year we've had one staff leave, and just to replace that person, it took nearly 6 months to get applications in for somebody to replace that position. So something we need to talk about later on probably. As far as other areas of recycling, at the recycle centers, just trying to keep up and just advertise and encourage folks to recycle what they do have. It's still talking with some individuals down in the Port Bass area the other night at Chickasaw Point. We were discussing the issues of just people coming up, they've got recyclables in the bags. You've mentioned it before. You've seen them come up with recyclables and throw them directly into trash, and they've already got them separated, but they just don't want to take the time to put them into separate bins. So trying to encourage people to actually do their part and recycle.
One good thing on the World Financial Report this morning, for those of you who get up in the wee hours of the morning as I do, the big thing on plastic now, thanks to the Japanese, is the technology's already, in fact, they're already doing it now. Plastic into polyester. That's the big thing now, which is a bright spot for us because we got a lot of plastic. And as you know, you got to have a market to regrind the plastic. Milk jugs are fairly easy because you can grind that. It's a blow mold process for milk jugs. So you grind it, run it through a wash line, and then you can use it again. Other plastics are not so, the other plastics they're talking about are, you make polyester out of, will be what is it? It's not UHMW, it's, what is it? UHMW?
Could be. They're making some out of PET and HDMI also, or HDP. I mean, they've been doing a lot of those into polyester and different types of material.
And the other thing is, we looked into like the convenience center at Strawberry Farm. You just pull it in a circle and pull out.
Yes, sir.
Our other centers, I know Mr. Moeller was here. He and I rode around and looked at them. The one in Salem up towards then you pull it in there, and sometimes there's traffic backed on the road. Have we done any more about making where you could pull through one in Salem? You could pull through, go over the bank there, go around, and just have them where they because you got people are backing up. Then the other one, they got a log jam. It's number 10 is the same way.
Yes, sir. We've looked at those last year and the year before. We've actually did some studies on it, trying to find out where the best entrance would be if we tried to make a drive-through type at those centers. You still got just your space is not very adequate for two of those sites. Like at Strawberry, we've got nearly 6 acres inside the fence that we're able to make the loop. All the other sites are less than 2 acres, except at, even at Salem is our best site that we could go across that little ravine and come around. But the only issue on that portion too is you're still going to have people trying to get around each other up there. There's not a lot of room to make it as like at Strawberry, where you've got the option, you can pull on one side, drop off your recyclables, come around and drop off your trash, or if you want to bypass it, you can just bypass it. What we looked at Salem is if you made that loop come around off the existing road there, you would not be able to have a 2-lane area where people could choose either or. If they just had trash, they couldn't. They'd still have to sit in line and wait. So that's one of our issues there. Do we want to try to spend that extra, money and try to build that, and not know for sure if it's gonna actually fix the issue. Our sites are becoming small, that whole area from, for even the Richland site, the, what we call number 2, Metromont, Salem, Ebenezer, they're starting to, outgrow their life, if that makes sense. You still got a high growth areas in all of those areas with population growth, and, so it may be something we need to look at for future as maybe either combining some of them and expanding to a larger center, or even replacing some of those centers too.
Well, the problem you have is down there off of, the one down near Clemson, off of Newry Road, not Newry Road, Old Clemson Highway,
Clemson.
is you got so many people from, Pickens and Clemson coming up there dumping the trash. You go in there and it's just one, you know, in Pickens County, you can't go in their center unless you got a sticker in your window saying you're a Pickens County resident. For us, and the one down there, going towards Hartwell, you got them coming over from Stevens County, because Stevens County has a policy on, you know, you gotta pay as you go. You got
Yes,
to
sir.
pay as you go bag. So they don't wanna pay as you go, so they come over here and just throw it all on us and drive off. And it's something maybe we need to look at. When I read around Mr. Bowler, we had already redesigned the, things where everything was on one side of the car. You pull through and you keep throwing in, then you come out. Wonder what happened to all my papers.
No, we've got some of those, it just gets to the point where, do you have enough room to get, how many cars can you get through there?
Well, see, give you Salem, we were gonna pull in there, Scott and I spent a good while up there. You go to pull in there, reconfigure the dumpsters, all right? You come in here and you come over that last, where you got that bank, where the fence is, you come over there, that's where you drop down. In the meanwhile, on one side, you got the dumpsters turned edgeways. You know, garbage, this, and glass and whatever, and then pull around, and then you drop down and you come down the road by the branch, then you come back up. You're making a circle. You don't ever stop or back up or do this. You're constantly moving ahead. The other thing we came up with, I even offered to do it. I said, get some cable from the rock crusher, I'll splice 2 eyes in the cable, free. And, y'all pull in there, you got the dumpster, right?
Yes, sir.
Wait, you put the dumpster on the ground, new one on the ground, then you back up, you pull the full one off, you back up, put it on the ground, pick the other one up, put it on the ground, then you gotta pick the other one up. You know, you got a bunch of shuffling. I said, why don't we they got about hooks on it. The truck's got a hook on the back of it. Take a about 10-foot choker, put it on the hook, slide the dumpster up with the new dumpster on there. You pull up, back up, stick that one on the ground, back up to the new dumpster, the old dumpster, suck it up on the truck, and you're gone. You know, you got two things. You just got only you got is a piece of cable laying at each, free from the rock crusher, just laying at each one of your sites. Just try to cut down on the wear and tear on the truck, because that truck's making a cycle to put the dumpster on the ground and pick the dumpster back up again.
Okay.
And old dumpsters got wheels on them anyway, well, rollers.
Mr. McCollum, may. Some of the things I've noticed, like Strawberry Farm's probably the number one that I visit. Like a lot of people, it seems to be the most, the busiest one around. The circle does seem to work. Your issue is your timing, because some people take a lot longer to take their garbage out.
Right.
Or they're taking 12 other people's garbage out at the same time. So depending on, you know, both of them have their pluses and minuses on the setup of it. You know, so I don't disagree with that statement about looking in. One of the things you brought up is lifespan of some of these sites. So what the future holds for some of these sites and where we're going. And, you know, we've talked before, Mr. McCall's brought up several times about, you know, we're getting eaten alive by our trash, and it's not going, you know, we're not lowering our volume, we're upping our volume. So volume is one of those things that that I've looked into, some of the reports and stuff that you've brought up here. And, you know, the volume is amazing. And the cost of waste management going across there, that's not going down either. So I think based on, you know, site surveys, can you bring some recommendations that can be, I don't know when our next meeting is, some recommendations back about, hey, this site, these are some things we could do to make it better. This site, we need to look at replacing in the next 5 to 7 years, or this site needs to be replaced right now, something like that. And then, you know, we need to think about long-term, you know, if we need to purchase more, so we're doing stuff like that. If that circle truly works the best, then we really need to start thinking about that going forward. I've seen a lot of concerns where people are like, hey, y'all aren't picking my trash up out of my car. I didn't know that was a big issue, but apparently it's an extreme issue where people, I guess they load it and expected us to unload it. And I know we don't do that anymore because of needle sticks and other stuff like that.
Yes.
Is there, and I know there is some length of walking at some of the places. And it wouldn't be a wheelbarrow. I know somebody, you know, will say, well, we just use a wheelbarrow. Trash carts that are easier to push out, I know that we can use them for multiple purposes. Have y'all thought about those things to where they can roll them to at least the back of the car, and then they can load it up and push it up so they're not, I get it, because carrying the 2 bags of trash, and that's what I was trying to, I was fielding a call from a friend of mine about his grandma throwing his trash away. And I said, well, your grandma shouldn't be throwing her trash away anyway. That's your job. So, but no, I just told him that, you know, we'll think about some ways to help. But I think, you know, carts are inexpensive and have multiple uses for us. But I just thought about the ability to have something so you can go from your cart to the trash and then, you know, dump it out from there. Because I understand it's hard throwing it over the rail and everything like that. But I do completely agree that I don't think it needs to be the safety of the employees that gets jeopardized by not knowing what's in that trash bag.
We can definitely look into those, see what we can find. Yes, sir.
Well, the way we talk about expenses and stuff, you know, we're working our way towards pay as you throw. It's coming down to it. You talk about sites being outdated. Outdated means spending more money, and so we're going to have to go to the old yellow bags like Hart County and other counties. We're going to be forced to. The other problem you have at the convenience centers is, and there ain't no way of stopping it, this is not a social area. Right. We can't get 4 cars and all of you get out of the car and we're talking about whatever, and the cars are backing up on the road. And there's no way, it's just human nature, which causes you a headache.
Yes, sir.
How we looking on the glass, regrinding glass for sandblast media?
As that portion of it, we still haven't found. It still goes back to your volume, how much glass you've got compared to your sources. As far as our numbers, we could probably double our numbers if we put in a commercial type system in, but that's still, you're looking at 800 tons at the most that we've got. As far as getting it from other counties, it all depends. If they've already got somewhere where they're getting paid for it to dispose of it, like we are so far right now, it's almost going to be hard for them to bring it to us because they're going to have to load it on some type of vehicle versus hauling it up here in small pickup trucks or whatever else, however they pick it up. Like Anderson County, they pick up their glass on the back of just a pickup truck and a trailer, and they roll these little 55-gallon drums of glass up on there. They use inmate labor to pick those up. So as far as, and they got centers scattered all over Anderson County. So as far as them bringing it back to us or other Pickens County, same way, they're all getting rid of their glass. They're getting paid for it because they've kept it separate like we have. So it's just, if you're going to do a sandblasting type thing, first of all, you'd have to make sure you can get it certified.
You don't have to, only thing you do is you pulverize it. Once you run it through a pulverizer costs $50,000. And once you pulverize it, then it's a viable media. It can be mixed. It doesn't make any difference. And you cut the Glass Institute that wants you to certify everything, you circumvent them, you cut them out of it. And then your two major sandblast users will be, Charleston Shipyard Consortium, that's Lloyd Stewart and, Rusty Corbin. They run that together, it's called Denton's also. And the other one is Metal Trades on Young's Island. They've gone into a big new build, process, and, they've got to expand their docks. And see, the glass media, no silicosis. The black slag, which is which we're getting away from now, might have mercury. It's coal slag. It might have mercury. Oh, Lord, we can't use that anymore. So the glass media is a one shot. You run it through the nozzle one time, and that's it.
Okay.
And it's, I thought it would be, when I first looked at that thing, I said, they showed me a bag of it. I said, I think I stick your hand in that bag, you'll come up with a bloody hand. You put it stuff, it's like sand. It's the dirtiest thing I ever saw. But it gives us, what I'm telling you is, it gives us a market right here to get rid of it. If we really got big into it, we send some railroad car to like Mayport, there's a big shipyard down there, or else we could send it to what's that? This big one in Chesapeake. Anyway, there's one up there too, and that would, get us, and you can mix the stuff. It would make a difference. But I really appreciate everything you're trying to do.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Well, we'll get that information together for the next meeting, and we'll have it ready to present for y'all.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Brock, when's that next meeting scheduled?
Whenever we want it.
March 18th, 19th.
Okay. I shouldn't have directed you. I should ask Ms. Brock if you will meet with him on that.
Oh, certainly, and we have done a lot of this in the past, and that was what I got up and left the meeting for, just for a moment. We still have some studies that we've done for the upgrades for some of the convenience centers, but not all of them, and these upgrade requests were made in 2015. So we'd probably have to review the data we have and make a new plan or verify that this is still pertinent.
You got you an agenda item now.
Yeah. We have a meeting whenever we want to. Thank you very much, Frank.
Thank you.
All right. Discussion regarding boating safety. And the only person besides me is the sheriff. You got how many boats you got, Mike? Ready for the summer?
We've got two new boats, that were acquired through the state. And then we've got a backup boat during the busiest summer months that we'll actually have three boats on the water.
Very good. You got you write the same tickets as DNR, right?
Yes, sir. We'll
Very
probably be looking
good.
at starting up, we'll watch the weather, as soon as it gets warm enough, those guys will, if there's an event now, they're on the water, but, otherwise, we're keeping them busy in some other areas right now until it gets warmer weather.
Thank you very much, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
The other thing about boating safety, I've been on this before, in South Carolina and other parts, you don't have to have a boating safety course. Basically, if you can afford the boat, you can drive it. There's no restrictions. You have it 40, 50, 100 feet long, anywhere you drive, as long as you ain't taking passengers for hire, the sky's the limit. The problem we have is, and I've heard a lot of comments during the summer, there's too many people on the lake. We gotta close the boat ramps. Well, the Coast Guard disagrees. As long as you maintain collision avoidance, like Ray Lewis says, you can step from one boat to the next boat to the next boat to the shore. As long as they ain't running into each other, it's perfectly legal. The problem we have is people need to be aware, and I'm pushing hard for boating safety, because if you're watching the skier behind you and you don't have another person in the boat, next time you know, my brother and I get a call, bring the floating crane to get the boat out of the woods. It's bad, and boats don't have seat belts. and the person gets ejected through the windshield into the woods before the boat stops. It's boating safety it's just important, and propeller strikes are really bad. You fall in the water and you get a run over by a propeller, that's generally really bad. All right. Then we got portable safety signs. This is something we started last year. People get out on the water. Well, they really don't know, because there's a boating safety course, that you got to have life jackets for everybody on board. You got to have an audible signal device. You got to in this and this and this. Don't overload the boat. Gee, just because you got seats for a dozen people, and you go burn your swamp in the thing, things like that. So we proposed to put up, before DNR gets you, this is to circumvent the state nailing you, is to put up, we were gonna put up permanent safety signs. Well, we got in deal with FERC and Duke Power about the boat ramp, so we said, a portable sign, like a road sign, like the road department's got, those things that open up. We had that with a thing. This is a suggestions from your Oconee County. You need to have the following flotation devices, throwable cushion or a ring, fire extinguisher, so on and so on and so forth on the boat. And this is what will maintain, keep you safe. The life jacket things hanging at the boat ramps has been a resounding success. That was really good. Summer's coming. Summer's coming a lot sooner than you think. And these are some of the things because we're surrounded by water. We got the river on one side and the lake, so we're a peninsula, all the way up to the south, to the state line. It comes together. So for a county that's surrounded by water, we need to promote the portable signs, tell you what you need to have. Because when you get out of the lake and you're riding along and old DNR officer stops you, or the sheriff stops you, hold me up a life jacket for everybody on board. Not a rotten life jacket, but a life jacket everything fits on it. You ain't got it, you're gonna find you. And the fines aren't bad. I'll give you an example. With the Coast Guard, they come up here, they're on Hartwell, they're gonna eventually be up here. The Coast Guard writes you a ticket, DNR writes you a ticket, life jacket. If you gave the officer a bunch of lip, he could maybe $65. Ain't too bad. Coast Guard life jacket, $3,000. You're notified by Miami of the amount of the fine. And them rascals can't get blood out of a turnip. They're good at it. But anyway, that's just some of the things we do. Summer's coming, and these are some of the things that we need to keep, that everybody needs to keep on their mind. Anything, Julian?
I think that's it.
Okay, other business. I got a handwritten thing here, fire truck.
Your turn.
Again.
One of the items that's on the agenda for the regular council meeting tonight, we want to take an opportunity to discuss some of the details with it here and hopefully an opportunity to answer any questions. But in this year's current budget, the fire service was allotted or budgeted to purchase 3 fire engines to replace existing engines that have reached their 20-year life cycle. As part of that plan and part of our just ongoing continuing needs assessment, we've realized over especially the last 18 months to 2 years, with the explosive growth that's happening in the Cornish Shiloh area 123 and Lake Keowee, that we have a need more than a fire engine is for an aerial device, for a ladder truck. The number of apartments that are going in at the EPIC project, the number of living units, those are multi-story wood frame residential buildings. Why they're sprinkled, that water only flows inside the living spaces. It doesn't include the exterior, their attic spaces. that could cause that fire to spread to adjacent buildings. Obviously, the commercial development is growing at a pace that we haven't been able to keep up with. And again, we're recommending the purchase in place of a fire engine is what we call a Quint, meaning it can do 5 jobs. That includes the 3 jobs specifically assigned to a fire engine, plus it carries additional ground ladders and a ladder on top, which makes it a Quint. It is to replace the purchase of a new fire engine that's meant for the Cornish-Shiloh Fire Station with a new to us 10-year-old aerial ladder out of Houston, Texas. Our logistics staff and motor pool are in Houston today. This has been a kind of quick work. We've looked at 6 to 10 trucks over the last 6 months, and as late as last week was in Alabama, had been in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to find one reasonable with a lot of good life left in it for us here in Oconee. And the one in Houston, the word that we got that we jumped on it and tried to get it on your agenda was one that we couldn't pass up, a broker that we have been dealing with. This was one that they highly recommended with low miles, low use, that essentially is coming from a small community with deep pockets, that they're able to replace their trucks on a 10-year schedule well ahead of our 20-year. But again, the truck meets the intended purpose that we had originally in requesting an engine, plus with the use of an aerial ladder, a 75-foot ladder and master stream on the roof or on the top of the truck, give it that added capability that we're going to need. We know that with our upcoming ISO assessment in April, that would have been a recommendation with the number of new buildings and new construction in that area since our last assessment in 2012. So again, the truck still meets the intended purpose of replacing a 20-year-old engine. It'll go in service as such, but just with the added capability. The cost of this truck that we found used is $350,000. That's with a current pump test, current aerial test, and again, motor pool folks and fleet maintenance are in Houston as we speak and have essentially kicked the tires and gave us the thumbs up today. This truck is comparable to the new one that we bought 2 years ago at a price of $850,000. So you can see the cost savings in being able to buy and place in service a like new truck to us. So again, well within budget. It's within the intended capital replacement plan. Just again, with the growth that's happened in that area, is us looking outside the box to meet the need of that with a used truck. So again, our recommendation or what we'd like to propose is the use of the $350,000 that was allocated towards the engine to purchase this truck tonight.
You said a 30-year window?
It's a 25-year on support trucks. So I think when me and you, we had spoke was 30, it's 25-year on support vehicles.
25 year.
Yes, sir. So it would still have the life expectancy of an engine if it was bought new today.
Like, if we commend you for looking at buying used stuff, that's saving the taxpayer, what, $500,000?
A pretty good chunk of change, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Do we need to, David, do we need to make a recommendation, send this to council? It's already on the agenda.
It's on the agenda already.
Okay.
We just wanted y'all to be aware of it first, since we did not know that we were going to have the
We
answer.
just didn't want to pass by
from
here
Beck.
before we got there.
Well, Chief
But he
King
did
needs to
email
be
before this
commended, though. I mean, it's a good deal.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Before we consider an adjournment, sir, with the boating safety and the possible temporary signage, would you like me to look into a cost factor for that, since we do lease 11 boat ramps and have 3 county parks?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
With water access to see. I don't know about the Duke part yet, but I feel sure I can get some assistance on that to see if we can get those signs up prior to summer coming.
All right, that would be a good idea. I'm gonna try to squeeze some money out of Lieutenant Zorn.
And we could possibly put them like at the boat ramps, banner style, you know, the 2 posts where you have like a banner.
I don't
Could be
know.
vinyl signs and you can have them double-sided.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I don't know why FERC come in and said we couldn't put a permanent sign in the ground. It's
I
beyond
don't know
me.
that one either. But we can look into the
Have you
temporary.
seen the way people back their boats in? Maybe that's,
I don't know.
just, it don't matter where it's at.
So propellers hurt signs too?
Yeah, yep.
We can look into that, though. I'll be happy to bring that back to you for the March 18th.
Okay, I appreciate it very much.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? John, you got anything?
No, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. We adjourned, I guess.
Aye.